Here's an experiment. Next time you are stuck in traffic, start looking at the taxis around you. Chances are that 4 out of 5 of them are made by Maruti Suzuki. This is not a coincidence. It's the result of one of the most complete market dominations in the automobile history. We are talking about $15 billion industry where a single brand has achieved near monopolistic control. But here what makes this story super interesting. Maruti Suzuki never actually intended to become India's taxi king. They started as a joint venture between Maruti and Suzuki to democratize car ownership for India's emerging middle class. This is the story of how a company known for affordable family cars built a taxi empire that transports over 10 crore Indians every single day. From the iconic Omni school vans of the 1980s to today's Uber Swift Desire, this is how Maruti Suzuki became the undisputed emperor of the Indian taxis. We are now part of the 01 network by Zerodha. Let's establish the scale we are talking about. India's organized taxi and fleet market is worth approximately $15 billion and it is growing approximately 18 to 20% every year. Ola and Uber have accelerated this growth. So we have gone from 14 lakh app-based vehicles in 2017 to 42 lakh commercial vehicles last year. This has tripled in less than 10 years. Maruti Suzuki commands approximately 50% of India's organized taxi market. But if you go deeper, you will understand the real domination. In compact sedans, which is the backbone of app-based cabs, Maruti's share exceeds 70%. In hatchback, it is over 60%, and on commercial vans under 2 tonnages, Maruti commands around 80% market share. Also, the Desire Tour variant, and we'll talk more about this variant by the way later in the video, sells roughly 60 to 65,000 vehicles every single year to taxi operators. To put this in perspective, the entire annual sales volume of some of the competitor brands is less than just this variant. So these numbers should make it super clear. This isn't just about market leadership. This is market domination on a scale rarely seen in any automobile market globally. And all of this didn't happen by accident, which brings us to our first key chapter. See, Maruti's journey to the taxi supremacy began 4 decades ago with a boxy van that would reshape Indian transport forever, the Maruti 800. The year was 1984. India's roads were dominated by Hindustan's ambassadors and Fiat's premier Padminis. They were made in the 1950s, just after the World War II. Sturdy but antique, also fuel hungry, and not very suitable for India's growing cities. Maruti's second model after the Maruti 800 hatchback was the Omni, an 8-seater van that the company initially positioned for large families. But that positioning didn't work. The Indian public took Omni as their workhorse. School operators loved that it could carry 8 to 10 children safely. Small businesses used it for goods transport. Tour operators deployed it for group travel. And yes, taxi operators loved it for its versatility and extremely low running costs. Now, by the late 1980s, the Omni had become so famous in commercial use that Maruti made a crucial strategic decision. Rather than fighting this trend, they embraced it. While other automakers saw commercial use as a potentially damaging to their brand image, and by the way, we'll talk about all of this on how Tata's messed up here, Maruti saw it as a validation to their philosophy, which was to build simple, reliable, efficient vehicles that solve real Indian problems. Now this sounds extremely simple when I say it, I know, but this started a revolution. Before we go ahead, I need a minute of yours. I'm sure if you've watched our videos before, you've heard us talk about the GrowthX community. We are a private club of 4,000 plus members who are leaders at companies like SarvamAI, 11 Labs, Microsoft, Google, Netflix, Zerodha, and more. All united by one obsession: build a compounding career in the AI-first world. Every member gets access to 3 things: people, content, and tools. People who are integrating AI into their work, content taught by people who are tinkering with AI, and tools to get you started on your first AI implementation. Now, of course, there's a lot inside the membership. The link to explore GrowthX is in the description down below. I'll let you check it. let's go back to the video. With the onset of India's economic liberalization in the 1990s, thanks to our ex-financial minister, Maruti launched the S-Team sedan in 1994. This was a massive success because India's taxi industry had never experienced modern comfort combined with reliability. Mumbai's cool cab S-Teams became the city's first taste of air-conditioned taxis. For the first time, the middle-class Indians could afford taxis that had ACs, unlike the Ambassador. But the real transformation for Maruti began in the mid-2000s with the arrival of a compact sedan that would redefine Indian taxi transport forever. This was the Swift Desire. Think back how cool Uber and Ola rides felt when they came to pick you up in these Swift Desires. It was launched in 2008 and it was Maruti's answer to the growing demand of compact sedans. It offered the efficiency of a hatchback in a sedan, which was very crucial for a market where sedan still carried prestige value for both taxi operators and passengers. By 2010, Desire sedans were everywhere in Indian cities. But instead of worrying about the taxi association damaging their brand, Maruti made a decision that would define their strategy for the next decade. They would not just accept commercial use, they would actively encourage it. See, in India's status-conscious middle class, the car you drive is a very powerful social signal. Unlike Western markets, where cars are for practical use, Indians care about what their vehicle says about their social standing. This is a very tough spot for car companies. If you embrace taxi sales for volume, you will risk alienating private buyers like you and me. And if you let go of commercial sales, come on, you will miss massive revenue opportunities. And by the way, we have seen this happening with the Toyota Etios, where Taxi Association killed the car's private sales. It was launched in 2011 as an affordable family sedan, but Etios quickly gained traction on Uber and Ola. Now by 2015, nearly 30% of all Etios sales were going to commercial operators. This commercial success became a private market disaster. Middle-class buyers began avoiding the Etios specifically because they didn't want to drive a taxi. And sales to private buyers plummeted even as commercial demand remained strong. Toyota faced an impossible choice. Do we abandon the taxi market and lose volume, or continue serving fleets and let our private market go to shit? They took a call and eventually discontinued the Etios entirely in 2020. This is where Maruti's generational separation strategy comes in. And honestly, it is genius. And it's so subtle that most consumers don't even realize that it exists. Okay, do this. Next time you're on the road, check the models of Uber and Ola cabs. You will see that it's not just a Swift Desire, it's actually a Swift Desire Tour. There's a tour badge subtly put near it. So here how it works. When Maruti launches a new generation of a popular model like the Desire, they don't discontinue the previous generation. Instead, they continue producing the older model and term it as Tour variant, which is made exclusively available for commercial buyers. This wasn't just a rebadged consumer vehicle, by the way. The Tour came with specific modifications for commercial use, like speed governors pre-installed, which is by the way mandatory for taxis, durable vinyl interiors instead of fabric, simplified feature sets to reduce purchase price, and enhanced cooling system for extended period of operations. The Tour success was immediate. Fleet operators finally had the perfect solution that didn't require expensive aftermarket modifications. This template quickly expanded across Maruti's lineup. Today, the Tour range spans 5 distinct models. By 2015, by the way, Maruti executives were publicly saying they would not block any model for commercial registration. This wasn't just acceptance of commercial use, it was a full embrace of the fleet market as a strategic growth engine. This strategy has proven remarkably effective. Despite tens and thousands of Desire operators on the road, the current generation Desire remains India's best-selling sedan. There's also a price point differentiation here. Tour variants typically cost 50 to 80,000 less than the consumer version. And honestly, Maruti has also strategically protected certain models from commercial association. Like the Nexa premium retail channel, this has cars like Baleno, Ciaz, S-Cross, XL6. They rarely sell to taxi operators. Maybe you will find few of them operated by a Hilton or a Taj. Maruti's taxi dominance was challenged by Tata, Toyota and Hyundai. Let's see each of them. In December 1998, Tata launched Indica, a compact hatchback which offered something revolutionary for its time: a diesel engine in a small, affordable car. In the early 2000s, diesel fuel was heavily subsidized by the Indian government. It was so cheap that there was a price difference of 15 to 20 rupees per litre, a massive advantage for high mileage commercial operators. And it worked. The Indica's dominance extended beyond just individual taxi operators. Corporate fleets, call centers, shuttles, early app-based services all heavily favored the Indica. At its peak around 2008-2010, the Indica likely commanded around 40% of India's taxi market. But the Indica had a fatal reliability flaw that would eventually mess up its commercial success. While Maruti built its reputation on bulletproof dependability, the Indica became notorious for electrical issue, build quality problems, and inconsistent after-sales service. Also, rather than learning from Indica's initial success, Tata Motors actively blocked newer models from commercial registration. They also refused excise tax benefits for them and discouraged dealers from selling to fleet operators. This decision proved catastrophic because just as the rideshare boom was creating unprecedented demand for taxi vehicles, Tata Motors withdrew from this market. Then came Toyota, which entered India's taxi market with the Etios sedan in 2011. But Toyota's conservative production planning and higher price point limited how much they can sell. While individual Etios taxis perform excellent, Toyota couldn't capture significant market share because Maruti was just too good at volume sales. The Etios was eventually discontinued in 2020, with Toyota focusing on higher margin segment rather than competing in the volume taxi market. Then there was Hyundai. They took a more nuanced approach. They offered models like Accent, which was later called Aura, to commercial operators while maintaining Hyundai's premium brand positioning. This strategy achieved somewhat success. Hyundai captured around 20% of the compact sedan taxi market. It appealed to some operators who wanted slightly premium vehicle than what was Maruti was offering. However, Hyundai's volumes remained a fraction of what Maruti was, and their conservative approach to commercial sales while protecting brand image limited their ability to achieve Maruti-like dominance. And then came the aggregator boom of 2014, powered by Ola and Uber. These apps created an unprecedented opportunity for automobile companies. Unlike traditional taxi operators who bought 2 to 5 vehicles, aggregator platform needed tens and thousands of vehicles across cities. And Maruti was uniquely positioned to capitalize on this boom. They had crazy production capacity and could actually deliver the cars aggregators needed. Second, their model range, which offered appropriate vehicles for every service tier. Third, Maruti dealers existed in every freaking city where aggregators were operating. And finally, instead of being worried about brand image like their competitors, Maruti actively wanted commercial sales. By 2018, fleet sales were growing at 20% every year, while private car sales grew only 8%. Maruti had positioned itself perfectly to ride this wave, while other competitors either didn't scale or chose not to participate, and their market share reflects their decisions. Now, to understand why Maruti dominates Indian taxis, you need to think like an Indian taxi operator. A Dzire delivers approximately 24 km per litre on petrol and an impressive 34 km per kilogram on CNG. A WagonR achieves 24 km per litre on petrol and 33 km on CNG. These figures are 20% better than most competitors. For context, a typical taxi in Mumbai covers 300 km every day. Let's do the math, right? Dzire, which does typically 24 km per liter, is driven about 250 km every day. Divided by 24, that's around 10 liters daily. A competitor sedan will do 20 kilometers per liter and it will require 12.5 liters every day. That means daily it saves 2 liters. Now at 100 rupees per liter, that is 210 rupees saved every day. Monthly 6,300. Annually 75,000. Now for a taxi operator, that 75,000 annual fuel saving often covers the EMI difference between a Maruti and a more expensive competitor. Let me quickly summarize everything we have learned today. We saw how Maruti was super early on in India's commercial vehicle wave with the Omni. We then went into Maruti's generational separation strategy with the Tour series. We learned how Maruti goes deep into positioning their brand for commercial and private buyers. We also saw how they have evaded competition for 20 long years and the exact math that makes Maruti suitable for a taxi driver. That's it for today. Again, if you would like to be part of the GrowthX community, the link to check out is in the description. I'll see you in the next one.